many systems, you have systems connected to schools, but it gets even worse than that, because Gates Foundation, Walton Foundation, and Broad Foundation are funding this crap, and most of our nonprofits get money from those same foundations. You have people who are unwilling to take on this fight completely, because other things you will get blackballed. I know I did. I came out against charter schools, well, against the way charter schools were happening. Let me say that, not against charter schools, but the way they were happening without parent input, without education input, without input from the community. How are you going to do a charter school? The whole theory behind a charter school as it began was that the community, the teachers, the parents would come together and create the kind of curriculum that they wanted for their children and community. You had people dropping in that didn't know the culture or our community at all, creating programs for our children, which were dehumanizing programs. What do you mean our kids don't need music, art, and recess for traumatized kids? So you mean to tell me you're going to have the most strict discipline for children who needed the most caring and love? Not only that, but you have a revolving door of teachers, and all the statistics say that children who've experienced trauma need stability. That's the number one thing they need, and that's the number one thing you're not providing. So they were providing the opposite of what our children needed and re-traumatizing our children. Not only that, but when you talk to the Teach for America students, young people who came in, because let me say this, when Teach for America first came in, I hated them. Don't get me wrong, I still hate the program. But the young people who came in, a lot of them were very well-meaning young people, not understanding what they were coming into. With some of those young people, believe it or not, the organization Resist for Teach for America, which is now nationwide, that started here in New Orleans. With young people we brought together and said, do you really think this is a great program? And they were like, absolutely not. Traumatized kids and kids who are going through things need veteran teachers that understand trauma, that understand early childhood development, that understand adolescent development. We need professionals in schools. We need people who know what children need, not brand new, well-meaning people for the most vulnerable populations. That's insane. And then all your veteran qualified teachers were moved to schools where children were making straight A's and not traumatized. So the kids with the highest need had the freshest, newest teachers who didn't know shit from Shinola, who didn't know anything. And then the teachers who knew everything were put in places where children already had resources, already had parents, if they did have trauma, had them in counseling, already were making good grades. Like, that's literally what we did. And then we punished children for being poor.
Well, what I'd like to find out is Senator Bowie back or Representative Freeman back to the—
No, I'm back. I'm back. Senator Bowie is back.
Okay, Senator Bowie, would you please tell us some of the things you are doing now and what you have been doing to try to reform the Orleans Parish School, all charter school district that we have?
Definitely. Well, what was just described was really the consequences of what we now know is both a flawed and failed educational experiment. And for those who may not know, my focus has been on studying the legislation that put this flawed and failed experiment into practice. As you all know, Act 9 was a constitutional amendment that said that the state of Louisiana, LDOE in particular, could take failing schools. At that time, the definition of failing was a 60. And so when that happened, New Orleans only had 4 of its schools considered to be failing schools that was a part of Recovery School District, which was the state entity to deal with the reform. Now, what happened is that the state of Louisiana chose the Charter School Demonstration Act for its reform approach. I mean, it could have actually chosen any approach, but the charter advocates wanted to deal with charter schools, and they chose the Charter School Demonstration Act, not knowing that act said that the use of the charter approach in Louisiana was to be done experimentally. And of course, there's nothing wrong with an experiment if you do it right, because that's the way you build new knowledge. Basically, it said that if we wanted to learn best practices, here's an approach we could use. And so the way it should have been done was that you would take a sample of the population, say 1 school, 2 schools. But what happened is that Katrina hit our city. And when Katrina hit our city, the advocates saw an opportunity to literally take over Orleans Parish schools. So what they did was something that was both immoral and unethical, and may even be illegal, because they called a special session in November of 2005 and passed something called Act 35. And in Act 35, they made the definition of a failing school not a 60 anymore, but an 84.7, but made it only apply to the Orleans Parish municipality out of 64 municipalities, and took 103 of our schools. Thus, the Recovery School District then turned all of our schools into charter schools. Now, when they did that, if they had not discriminated against New Orleans, 50% of the state schools should also have been taken at that time. Now, here's what they did not know when they did that. The first thing was that they went contrary to the law, because the law addressed individual schools in municipalities. By making us an all-charter district, that was not the intent of the law, but that was something that had never been done in the United States before relative to charter experimental programs. And so we now had an all-charter district in New Orleans. So then I became concerned about the extent to which the state and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education was in compliance with the charter law, which says that if you're going to do this experiment, you must collect the data in terms of what you do as an intervention, as a practice, and see the extent to which that practice had impact, either good or bad, on student outcome. Well, what we know as of 2019, the last time that we actually measured student performances in our schools, is that 73% of our children are not performing at grade level, compared to 63% when they took our schools in 2005, which means that 15 years later, and at a cost of $7 billion, and all of those unintended consequences you just heard the sister articulate, that this state has implemented both a flawed and a failed experimental education approach. And then I had the legislative auditor to do an audit of the schools. And the audit was released last year in March. And that audit said that the state and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education did not ensure that charters actually measured and identified their practices to see what was the outcome. So clearly, after the 15 years, we now know literally we have a flawed and failed approach. Couple that with also a 72-page report that Stanford University did to talk about the results of the New Orleans experiment. We now know that they have stratified our school district by race and class. That is, the wealthiest kids in the system end up at the better schools. We also know that the One App is a complete failure. It does not work. We have promises of so-called choice, but what we know is that we've reduced choice to now chance, because one variable in the One App is a lottery number. We also know that they have totally destroyed our neighborhood schools. And as you know, neighborhood schools are more than brick and mortar. For us, it's a support system, and they've totally destroyed that. We also know that we have some 26,000 young people between the ages of 16 and 21 who are out of school and out of work. I submit to you that these are youngsters who have matriculated through this failed educational approach, and that's why we see this tick in juvenile crime. We have young people graduating from high school who can't read at the 6th grade level. So what we have in the New Orleans community, and what we must do as a community, is to demand the stoppage of the chartering of these schools, because we are truly now in a crisis worse than we was when they decided to take the schools in 2005. Based on that number I gave you, that 10% more of our kids are doing worse than when they took the schools in 2005. I'll stop there to answer any questions if anybody have any. My bill, let me just tell you, let me just give you the bill I've submitted for this year is Senate Bill 404. That bill attempts to amend Act 91, the section of Act 91 that gives all of the operational autonomy to the charters. Right now, Act 91 says that automatically when a school is chartered by the New Orleans elected school board, based on a recommendation from the superintendent, it automatically has total autonomy over everything it does. My position is that now that we know that this whole thing is flawed, they should not have those automatic autonomies, nor should they be given their automatic status as their own educational agency. That authority should go back to the elected school board, and the reason it should be there because then we as citizens have now an entity to hold it responsible and accountable. Right now, that statute is the thing that gives them that, and we can't address that because that's state law. I'm trying to change that with Senate Bill 404. That's pretty much where I am at this point with the latest piece of legislation to try and realign, if you will, our public education system in New Orleans.
So I have a question. How is it then that there is no accountability and basically we're being, taxed without being represented? How is it, isn't that it's in and of itself a huge problem? Not to mention no choice for the schools.
Well, because of the legislation, that's why my target right now is Act 91. That piece of legislation brought those schools back with all kinds of authorities relative to superintendent powers as well as the charter powers. But here is the irony. Everything that's in Act 91 was supposed to be the things those charter organizations measured to see if in fact they worked. And if they did, according to the law, you're supposed to replicate and duplicate. If it didn't work, you're supposed to get rid of it. So according to what the law says, because we now know the charters have not worked for 73% of our children, according to the law, we should stop doing that experiment. So that's why I'm trying to amend it to, in fact, hold the state accountable for what it has done to our children in New Orleans. In my opinion, what the state of Louisiana has done is more egregious because it is a state entity and this is a state-sanctioned educational experiment. This is more egregious than what happened to the folk in Tuskegee when CDC decided to do the research on them, didn't tell them. Well, the same thing now is the case with us, except they've done the experiment, but in fact, it has been a flawed one. And for the last 15 years, our kids have been subjected to everything you heard the sister just articulate, and in addition to the things I just pointed out to you as well. This to me, the condition of our public education system is our civil rights movement and act for the 21st century. If we as a community, and I'm trying to get the general community to understand it, but if the general community fails to act, the African-American community must act, because the one thing that has not been said in the last 16 years is that this only happened in the parish that happened to be majority African-American. We got 64 municipalities here, and no parish, no municipality is required to do charters the way we are in the city of New Orleans.
Now I've got a little housekeeping to do. Can you stay to answer questions until about 6, Senator?
I'm gonna try to, if something comes up back on the floor, I'm gonna have to get back in.
Okay, and then another thing I wanted to ask.
But I'm all right.
Hold 1
Go
second.
ahead.
I want to ask if Representative Freeman is with us.
Not yet, CC. I just had gotten a message. She's still in session.
Okay, well, I'm gonna open the floor to questions for the senator.
I have 3 hands that's up. Ms. Brooke, Miss Melissa, and Miss Tripp.
Well, let's start with
Okay,
Ms. Brooke.
I'll go ahead. I just want, my point is this, is that and I guess I wrote it better in the chat, because of the failure of this system, Black children are owed remediation from the charters for their lack of education and their trip along the prison pipeline. And I think that charter schools made a lot of money, or the corporations behind them did, and each one is a separate entity, I realize, but still that money, that time, those years, the 16 to 21-year-olds especially need that, some sort of restitution for that.
Senator Boyd,
I'm here. I'm still here.
do you agree with that statement made by Brooke, that restitution is necessary and deserved? Senator?
He may be talking to someone at the Capitol.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Can
can.
you hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Not only do I agree, but I've had a conversation with both Governor Edwards and with Superintendent Brumley, because I've said to both of them, first and foremost, that I know that if this is in fact was not an African-American district, we would have been stopped the experiment. But I said to them that, listen, since the state has admitted, and they admitted that this thing was flawed, because when I met with Dr. Brumley in January of last year, explained to him what should have happened and what didn't, he immediately went to Betsy that same month. And as of this year, the state has revised both the application and contract of charters to do exactly what I've been telling them should have happened over the last 15 years. But I then said to him, well, since you've corrected this and the state has corrected it, going forward, the state and children who are exposed to the experiment will not be harmed anymore. I said, but however, that does not apply to the all charter district you all have created in New Orleans. And so what I expect should be happening is we need additional support for the children who are presently still a part of the state's experiment, as well as all of those children who have been impacted by it. So things like tutorial program, whatever is necessary to cover what has happened to our children should happen from this state. And of course, their response was, we'll check into it to see what's there, But for me, it's more than that. I actually have right now 2 attorneys that are looking at the extent to which this state can be sued based on them violating what the state law said what should have happened as a result of this failed and flawed charter experiment. But clearly, not just our children, but our community also should receive additional services and support based on what this 15 years and $7 billion of taxpayers' money has created with the New Orleans public school system and its impact on our community in New Orleans.
Senator, thank you. Brooke, that was an excellent question. Cece, I'm going to give it back to you in these questions that are ahead of me, but I wanted to just follow up on that real quick. Senator Ashana had said that litigation is difficult due to the fact that the lawyers are in bed, for lack of a better word, with the charter school system. Many of the lawyers that are in New Orleans are really cooperating with the charter school system. So are you in agreement with that? Are you finding other lawyers to handle such cases? What is your reflection on that?
She is exactly correct. It took me from 2016 until just 6 months ago to find a formal judge and his law partner to be willing to even look at this. I went to several attorneys. I went to several legal organizations, and all of them, as she just articulated, are somehow attached to some charter organization. And I was just fortunate enough to have this former judge who happened to see a piece that I put out about this flawed and failed experiment piece, this moral imperative piece I put out, and was concerned enough to say, man, I'd like to look at that to see if it's possible for us to, in fact, see if we can bring some litigation. Not at the state level, because even at the state level, the kinds of response you get from the courts here are also in bed, if you will, with the charter advocates. So we're looking at possibly a federal suit that will address some of those things that are happening, like equal protection under the law and some other things they're looking at to see whether or not we have grounds to do that. But it has taken my entire time in the legislature to at least find somebody willing to do it. And since that time, I have one or two other attorneys who do not want to be identified in the record, if in fact we're able to go forward, but are willing to help with the case. So she's exactly right. Most folk have been co-opted or either bought to participate in a movement that is, in my opinion, as I said, more egregious for our community than what CDC did with the Tuskegee studies.
We've had 4 other questions. So let me start from my left to my right. Melissa Francis.
Yes, my name is Melissa Francis. Thank you for your work, Dr. Bowie. I'm with I'm a parent union organizer with Step Up Louisiana. And I heard you say, and I believe that 26,000 of our children have been dropped out in school. So with our parent union organizers, with our parent union, we have got together and we started a partnership with Xavier University, and we have a Readers Are Leaders program, right? But I'm going to read something that I compiled together because the parents, this is something they want to see done with our children, because they failed our children already. We want adequate citywide youth development programs that provide enriched life skills and social development to build our youth self-esteem. Because of the crime and all that's going on, we need those programs. The New Orleans City Council needs to collaborate with the Orleans Parish School District to provide more resources for our youth that assist with their mental and social emotional learning. They also need conflict resolution, of course, and learning loss would ensure more public safety in New Orleans. And so the parents propose that for the next 3 months, that New Orleans should consider mandating a citywide youth curfew. And we talked about having it 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and of course 10 p.m. on Fridays and through Sunday for the weekend, where young person will be required to be with their parents while being out during those hours past the curfew. And we also
Melissa.
Hello?
Melissa, that is Pastor. I'm wondering is there any way that you could put that information in the chat? Because we really want to get to some more questions here. Can you give that somehow set a link to that information?
I can do that, but we also wanted to know as well, if I can ask this question. Since the charter school, this charter school is, I can't hear because if everyone could please mute your phones. Seems to be a phone or a device that is not muted. Everyone take note of whether your phone or your device is muted at this time. And perhaps Brooke or Sylvia, if you see somebody needs to be muted, please take care of that. But everyone, please.
That's what I'm looking for
Take
now.
responsibility
Yeah, me
for
too.
yourself.
I can't find it.
It's the iPhone, guys, and it may be Amy Freeman because I got a text. I just
No,
saw a message.
She's in, the iPhone
Yeah.
is Pastor Manning.
No,
Okay.
that's not me. I'm not. My iPhone is not me. I'm not on my iPhone.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
okay, so we know that this is an experiment, right? And it was supposed to provide data. So how do we hold folks accountable for that, Senator Bowie? Dr. Bowie.
Well, while we're waiting for Dr. Bowie to come back, can we then hear from Representative Freeman? Maybe she can answer that question. Representative Amy Freeman, I understand she was on the line.
Yeah, she couldn't hear for a bit, so I don't know whether she
You want
can
me-
now.
You want me to repeat
Can
it?
you check the chat for
No.
questions, please?
I don't know I don't know how to check unless she responds.
Can I say something real quick? This is Ashana. Dr. Bowie, that's why he put the bill forward. He just addressed the fact that he had just went to the superintendent of education and brought that up, and now they are collecting data. But here's the thing, they already have the data. The reason they did this is around the privatization of education. This is a money machine. This has nothing to do with them actually wanting to provide quality education. Because if that was the case, they would have followed the same best practices that Finland did. There was a time when America and Finland were on the same level educationally.
No, I was
Okay,
speaking, Ashana,
see.
of the data that they were supposed to collect, but I know they just started collecting data, but I'm saying the one that they were supposed to collect, how can we hold them accountable for not doing that?
Well, that's why he's proposing that we throw
ladies.
out Act 91. I mean, that's
Okay.
the whole reason for the legislation is that most of what they have been doing has been illegal.
Okay, ladies, let me get this, the state representative, please. Representative Freeman, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I just had to call y'all from my phone because something was wrong with my AirPods and my computer. So it seems to be working on my phone. Can y'all hear me? I'm still on the House floor because we were voting on a bunch of bills and there was a big debate on something that I had to pay a lot of close attention to because it's increasing some criminal penalties that don't really make sense. So, and I needed to vote against it and hear the debate. So, but I appreciate y'all including me in today's discussion. I know y'all probably been on discussion for an hour. So just happy to be here and hear what you all have to say. Of course, I'm serving on education, so we have meetings tomorrow.
Right, aren't you the only
Yeah.
person from Orleans Parish on that committee?
Insurance will meet
Yeah.
tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Yes, at this point, yes. Well, Stephanie Hilferty is there, but she's Jefferson and Orleans. So I'm the only fully Orleans person, yes.
Listen, we have 3 questions, so we're gonna ask Ms. Tripp to come in and ask her questions, and maybe you can answer. Maybe you can answer the next 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear myself think because of the background noise.
Yeah, there's nothing there's not a lot I can do about it. Because
Right,
I'm
everyone,
on
the
floor.
background,
We're
right, the
still in
background
session.
noise.
Okay.
It's probably me, but
Yeah, it's the floor, that's all.
and I can't
Good
leave the
choice.
floor until we're done. In a
That's
minute,
all
they're
right,
gonna
let's
clear
proceed.
out.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
First of all, I'm trying to understand more about the history and the process by which this all devolved and where the power centers are. So my question is, it really arose when I started hearing even some of the people here saying, of course, I'm not against charter schools. Well, charter schools under this network of laws and acts, as you said, Senator Bowie, are only in Louisiana, right? This experiment. So why are people so reluctant to say, or they won't go on the record saying they are against charter schools, against the implementation of the act, against how it's been implemented, as you said, Senator Bowie, 15 years and $7 billion later. I have some other questions, but I'm just going to.
Bowie, just so you know, Bowie is not on any longer. He had.
I'm sure somebody here can probably answer that question. Why is no one willing?
Representative Freeman can answer that question. She's on the Education Committee. Representative Freeman?
Well, I don't know that I can answer that question because I wasn't here when Act 91 was passed. And, you know, I actually have been supportive of charter schools since I've been up here, but that doesn't mean I don't see that they have issues as well. So I don't know what the question is because I missed the first 45 minutes or hour of discussion. So if someone could rephrase the question, that'd be more helpful for me to answer.
I can answer it to the best of my ability. It's big money and it's connected. I mean, if you look at the Obama administration, after Bush, he did, Bush did Race to the Top, or one of them, I can't even remember, but Arne Duncan was the person who really opened the doors into education reform. It's been the only bipartisan issue has been education reform. It's big dollars. We're talking about multiple testing, multiple textbooks, multiple everything. Because when you split into different districts, right? Then each district has autonomy. Then and their boards, they get to order their own supplies. So then, and not only that, but they get to almost break the schools into pieces. One of the people from the community used to call our school system, jobs programs for young white people, because you have all of a sudden you have Run NOLA and Play NOLA and all of these things which were already just located in the school. You had a gym teacher that did track, right? Now you have to import art, you have to import music, you have to import physical education. So you have all these nonprofits created to bring stuff to schools that were already in schools.
Okay, Ms. Bigard, let me get to a couple of more questions. Betty DeMarco.
Yeah, well, my question really was for Senator Bowie about how we can help with the amendment to Act 91 that he has authored. And then my other question was going to be to him before Representative Freeman came on. Representative Freeman, would you support the amendment to Act 91? Because I've been doing education reform for years. That's how I met Cece and other people that are on this call. And the city of New Orleans had a plan to change some school. There was a group anyway, a large group that worked on governance issues, and it was pulled right up until the Katrina, and it was pulled right out from under us to get this charter system in there. And I definitely agree with Ashana that it's about the money. And I think I'm realizing now also that the Republican Party wants public funding out of anything, Social Security, schools. And so we've got a bunch of different things going on. We had a problem school system. Yes, we all admit children were not being served in a lot of schools before Katrina. Not happening at my school where my kids went at Lusher. It was totally different. And that's how I kind of got involved. So there's a whole bunch of issues around why this is still happening. And I think right now, we're not only fighting this local, but we are fighting a huge Republican agenda to get public services gone. They want to do Social Security. And I know I'm sure Representative Freeman's going, Betty's lost it. But I'm telling you, it's happening nationally. Legislation we're seeing right now about gay rights and all the other, critical race theory, all of that is to cloud the issues around public schools so that the Republicans can get rid and give the money to people to go wherever they want to go. So I just wondered, how can we support Bowie, and is Representative Freeman in support of Senator Bowie's bill? Thanks.
Representative Freeman.
Sure. Thanks, Betty. First of all, I have not had an opportunity to read Dr. Bowie's bill. It hasn't made its way to our side yet, so I can't really speak to where I am on it, Betty, because I have 20 something pieces of legislation already filed, and I've been working hard to deal with some of the things that are coming through education on our side right now. For example, there's education savings accounts, which I have been in direct conversation with which ways are those going and how are we taking money away from public schools across the state by putting ESA's education savings accounts in place, and how that money comes out of the school system. So how do we track that money? How do we follow that money? And I don't like the idea of not having accountability. The Department of Education up here testified that they could track it all, but we had 4 separate education saving account bills last week, and my question to the superintendent, Dr. Brumley, was, do you have the capacity to handle all of these? Maybe it's, you do something special for military families. I understand their military families are a little different. They move around a lot. They're used to bureaucratic paperwork. They're trying to get the proper placement as their, kids are replaced. But if you start doing an ESA for every type of special student, then we won't have the services in the schools. And that's across the state. That's an issue. So that's one of the conversations that has been ongoing right now in education and on the House side. And I can speak to that. I can't speak to Dr. Bowie's bill because I'm not familiar with what it's doing. And I apologize if he'd been on here, I might know
No,
more about it. If we'd been on at the
that's
same
okay.
time. Yeah.
That's okay. Let me take another question. Marie Harmon's been waiting quite a while, and then after that, Jeff Connor.
I think Raymond Sweet was really up,
Was he next?
closer up, but I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Well, let's go with Raymond Sweet, Marie Harmon, and Jeff Connor.
Raymond, you there? All right, if he's not there, CC, go in your
I
order.
don't see him.
All right.
Okay.
Jeff actually was next, CC, before Maria,
Okay.
but she can go.
Well, let's do it right. Come on, Jeff. Jeff Connor. Can you unmute your computer? We can't hear you.
All right, got it. What other senators are supporting Senate Bill 404? That
I
would be
don't know.
important.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because I'm on the House side, so I haven't had any conversations with any senators about that bill. Dr. Bowie might have been able to tell you guys. It might have been scheduled. It may not even be scheduled. So,
Right.
we with that veto session that we had in the middle of the third week, we're still catching up on scheduling of bills. I can tell you, I'm trying to get a bill scheduled right now to provide menstrual products in schools. And I just had to go to our chairman today to try to get that scheduled for next week because it requires an appropriations piece. So things are behind on scheduling up here because of the veto session.
Okay.
But we don't have a lot of control over the scheduling, Jeff. I hate to tell you, it's really up to the chair. So you have to go lobby the chair to get your bill scheduled, or else sometimes it just lands out there and
What
waits.
do we know what committee in the Senate has to hear that bill before it makes it to the floor?
I would assume it'd be Senate Education because
Okay.
that's Cleo Fields, and I've presented my own bills over on that side in front of Senator Fields. That's Cleo Fields.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I can't even tell you the full makeup of the committee because sometimes they change over there and it's a smaller body. So, usually right before I present a bill, I go look and see who's on it before I go.
Thank you, Representative. We got another question, but let me just jump in and say there's no one from Orleans Parish on that Senate Education Committee as well. You are our point person.
I'm the only one on the House side, yeah, for sure.
And there's no one on the Senate side from Orleans Parish as well.
Oh, really? I did
Really?
not know
Senator
that.
Bowie is.
He's not on the
Senator Bowie
Senate
is.
Education Committee.
He's not on the committee.
On the committee.
Yeah.
He's not on the committee.
Oh,
I didn't realize that.
I see.
Now, next question, Marie Harmon. Were you done, Jeff? Were you
Yes.
done? Okay,
Yeah.
Marie.
Thank you. I mainly wanted to offer up a comment in response to a question I was asked earlier in regards to what can we do to support or do anything in regards to Senate Bill 404 in the community. And I just wanted to express that step up. We're trying to do a teach-in in the next couple of weeks about Senate Bill 404, so community members and parents can actually have knowledge about the legislation and how that can impact the local landscape of how charter schools are ran in New Orleans. And also, if you are in support of the bill, because Step Up is We also are trying to mobilize people to go and speak and support if they can, or there's also a way for you to submit electronic comments to the committee, and we'll be sure to email that stuff out. So I can coordinate with the leaders at Justice and Beyond to see about us doing a two-faceted outreach approach. That's just an answer I just wanted to offer up in regards to what we can do. Also, I know Dr. Bowie said he was trying to give himself 2 weeks the last time I spoke to him about Senate Bill 404 in regards to getting the community educated and gaining support from the community about the bill. But I'm sure he can answer about the scheduling time of when the bill will be heard. And also, Step Up has a base in Baton Rouge, and we already planned on meeting with Senator Cleofield, so we can
Oh, you want to
also
come
keep
say hi?
y'all
I'm on a call.
updated
I'm on a call.
about
Sorry.
if he has an idea of like the measure of support that bill can carry in the committee. That's just what the part we're playing as a community organization. But I'm also sure Dr. Bowie can give an answer about, a predicted amount of support he could get on that bill.
Now, let me just interject and ask Representative Freeman. Representative Freeman, the discussion we've been having about Senator Bowie's bill is about returning, it's about accountability and making these charter schools accountable, and also having someone to oversee what they're doing, because at this point, there's no accountability. We don't know what any one school is doing. As I was saying earlier, my grandson is at one of these schools, Homer Plessy, and today he couldn't go because the lights are out. And that's the third time in 6 weeks. I don't know what's going on at the school. I don't know if it's Entergy or the school can't pay their bills. But the point is, who as voters, who do we go to get accountability from schools that this charter school system that has been deemed autonomous? How do we put accountability back there?
Well, my suggestion there is accountability for schools is the school board. That's the way I've always seen it. I mean, previous to me being up here, we up here set policy and deal with funding. The school board is supposed to be the one that deals with the accountability to decide how schools are functioning, if they're doing the right thing, because the way I understand it, they have agreements with each charter school independently. And so my suggestion as a parent, as a grandparent, for the children is that you need to go to the school board for those kind of answers.
Well, here's the thing, that Act 91, which Senator Bowie is putting forth an amendment to Act 91. When Act 91 came out, it said that the schools will be returned to the Orleans Parish School Board jurisdiction. However, they would be autonomous. They would still be able to operate outside of any oversight. And that's the problem with Act 91. And that's what Senator Bowie is trying to do. So it's not the school board.
But right now, I mean, I'm no expert on this. Like, I sit on House Education, and I've never been a teacher. I've raised 4 kids, only one who went to public school. So I can't say I'm any sort of expert on that. But what I can say is, I guess you're telling me his bill returns the supervision to the school board, but I thought we voted on something last year that allowed the school board to have oversight on some of this. I mean, the legislative auditor up here will audit schools sometimes if they're not doing the right things with the numbers, but that's about the power we have up here as far as, if someone's getting, state funds and they're not using it right, we can audit. That is one thing we can do. But as far as my understanding is that the school board does have the accountability piece. Maybe they're not implementing it, I can't say, because I don't serve on the school board.
May I ask you a question? Would you be willing to go on a tour? Because one of the big things is law. A lot of the schools are not obeying law, especially around special education. And there's a big issue with climate, because a lot of our schools, when I say climate, they have toxic climate, which are causing already traumatized children more trauma. And by you being our representative in Orleans, would you be willing to go to some of the schools that we see with the toxic climate?
And are you
because
talking environmentally, like something's wrong with the AC
no, I'm talking,
system?
when I say toxic climate, I mean schools that don't have math teachers, schools that do not have
Oh, right.
access
Okay.
to clean restrooms or
Yeah,
working
okay.
restrooms. Schools that the children are not allowed, they're allowed 10 minutes for lunch and recess, and some of them aren't eating. That foster very toxic climates and illegal climates. But like you said, we can audit on numbers, but unless you're at the school and talking to some of the children and parents, you don't realize all of the illegal things, the inhumane things that are happening in schools and school systems. Because we have what, 46 school systems now, within those.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if my schedule allows, I'd be happy to go on a tour. But I'm up here right now, y'all. This is the session time period. But I think if there's certain schools that are not following the law and have toxic climate, one thing that legislators can do, and not just me, if you don't live in my district, you could request it of your own legislator. You can always order an audit from a legislator or request one, because we have the power to send the auditor in wherever public money goes. So,
Okay.
so
Does
that's a potential suggestion to you. Like, if you know that, like, these 3 schools are very egregiously not, not using the funds properly, not providing special ed, like you said, not having working bathrooms. To me, somebody might be doing something with the money that's incorrect. So I would, in my power as a legislature, whether it's a school in my district or a school in, say, Representative Willard's district, any legislator can make a request to the legislative audit and say, I have concerns about what's going on in this school. Can you go and provide an audit for me?
I hear you, and I appreciate that. I wanted to say one more thing. I heard you talk
Okay.
about making sure the schools provide administration, sanitary things for young girls. Well, they have a lot of schools that will only let young girls go to the bathroom 1 and 2 times a month. We had a situation where math and science would only let them go 3, and the administrator literally said, girls have administration 3 days a month. And I had to explain to him that girls, don't just need to use the bathroom during that time. And most of the time it's more than 3 days a month. But
yes,
like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you have people who have really backward views and do not afford our children human rights. And so, yeah, the other piece is, I don't think auditors are auditing for human rights. And I think that needs to be a piece of the auditing process is, when we look at education. I would love to connect with you as a member of Erase the Board and Education Justice Project, and maybe set up some type of meeting, because we all want to do something about this in New Orleans. So can I contact you? Can you
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I
Okay.
just know I'm not in New Orleans a lot right now because session, and session goes till June 6th. So I absolutely care about the outcomes of our children. I don't like the idea of them being in a toxic environment and toxic climate, and whether that climate is not getting what they need, or completely told they can't go to the bathroom when they need to, or those kind of things are horrifying to me.
Sylvia?
And since I'm on the phone, I hate to tell
Yes.
this, but I can't see everybody's names, so I'm not even sure who I was just speaking to. But but my house email is hse098@legis.la.gov, and my legislative assistant is Razan Batter, and she and I both check that email together, and she helps with my schedule. But she's on at a neighborhood meeting that's on Zoom right now, so she's not on this call with me.
Representative Freeman, we've got to, and Cece, we got to wrap this up soon, but let me ask this question, Representative Freeman. Can you fill us in more on how this auditing process works?
That was my question.
How is that? Is it a slate of auditors that go in? Is there, just kind of give us a roadmap for how that looks.
It's an entire division, and if you pull up on your computers, legislative audit advisory, they write reports regularly. In fact, this morning I was reading a report they wrote in December about how TANF funds are used at these crisis pregnancy centers, because I specifically have a study resolution that I'm trying to put forward to make sure that those are federal funds, and I'm trying to make sure they're being used properly. And there's like a 54-page report on it. So the auditors are constantly auditing, anything from a small rural town, water system that may be in trouble, to funds that the city of New Orleans gets from the state, so anytime there's funds that are going out, just like those big national firms like PwC and Deloitte. I'm not an accountant, but I have friends who are, and so I'm sure many of you do. Those firms that go in and audit a company, to audit their books and make sure the money is being used the way it says it's being used. That's what the legislative auditor does for the legislature. And any senator or any representative can request information. In fact, on the Senate side, Jimmy Harris sits on that committee with me, but you don't have to be a committee member to request a legislative audit. Any 144 of us in this body, anyone can call or send in a request via email saying, I have some concerns about what's happening with I'll use the downtown development district as an example, or I have some concerns about what's happening with the sewage and water board billing. Any one of us can make a request.
Okay, I guess I have some concerns then about capacity. If there's a request made for an audit, it just seems to me that, I mean, I don't know the timeline or how quickly that moves through the bureaucratic system of getting that actually done. But so I have concerns there. And I also have concerns of why there isn't just a auditor just assigned completely to the school system rather than being stretched out over everything from parks to downtown development districts.
Well, they do have specific staff members for different areas. So I'm probably not doing the best job of describing what the legislative auditor does. In fact, if you wanted to, you might be able to get somebody from that staff to come, give you a brief of what they do, because
that's my next thought. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm not a staff member of that. I just sit on a committee that helps them make decisions about their reports. But absolutely, there's got to be 100-something people who work for legislative auditor. It's one of the biggest divisions within. In fact, I know they're doing active recruiting on campuses across the state right now to recruit young people who are coming out of college to come work for them. So there are certain things that are routinely being audited. So some of these programs, and it is a financial audit. You're right. It's not an audit based on other things. It's an audit based on financial. But they do sometimes pick up things like that rules aren't being promulgated or things that were in the law that aren't being followed, and they make recommendations to legislators through those reports on what we should be considering.
Can I ask my question before we close, Pastor?
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Yes, my question was, what other entity besides the legislative audit that can push this needle, like LDEQ and EPA? For the environment, like she said, the bathrooms aren't clean. It's a lot of things. What other entities that we can use to also target to push this audit even more?
I mean, the other department I would think would be the Department of Health, especially if it has to do with bathroom. I would say contacting through the Department of Health.
Okay.
All right. The bottom line is just that there just needs to be a comprehensive, robust evaluation of these charter schools that are running in an autonomous fashion, and the system right now is not designed to do so unless we're missing something here, and we need to come up and push legislators to come up with a new system that's going to really, really, really give this sort of evaluation that we need, and then act upon it in a way that's going to protect our children. Yes.
There are two other hands up that didn't get a chance to ask questions. Are we closing?
No, let's get to those two questions because this is important, and then we're going to wrap up after that. And I need those questioners to make it as concise as possible. Let's take them, CC.
Okay, well, Sister Sylvia, who's up next?
It's Bernadette and Mr. Dennis Knowles.
I'll ask mine real quick or state mine real quick. There's no difference between Republican or Democrat. There's a colonial mode of production. We need to stop saying that the Democrats will save us, as the Democratic Party has proven time and again that they pose the very same initiatives of keeping Africans in desperate conditions that literally kill us. Again, I say it's the colonial mode of production, the colonized and the colonizer. colonialism, imperialism, capitalism, the colonial mode of production. So stop telling me how some enemy is going to remediate our issues. It's not going to happen. I'm listening to the representative, and I'm sure it's out of her control, saying that we have an auditor session over here. We have these auditors that will keep people in strategic line. That never happens. It's a gerbil's wheel that we see all the time. And don't get me wrong, it's not an indictment on you individually, but it's just a whole conundrum of poisonous pills that come into our communities. They kill our kids, they send us to the pipeline to prison, and this is an ongoing situation, even beyond the charter school system. Uhuru. Thank you.
And I'm not going to yeah, and who is that? I'm sorry, that was Mr. No. Is that who else that was speaking? I'm having a hard time following who was speaking, but I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I mean, I really am concerned about where we are as far as how we're servicing our kids. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm one of the few Orleans delegates who's fully come out for the Millage for Early Childhood Education. Some of my colleagues aren't taking that risk, but I feel like that is an opportunity to invest in more kids at birth. And I am, before I even ran for the seat, that was something that I have absolutely been committed to, because you have to give everybody this chance to start well. And I agree that we have a lot of problems to fix that I can't fix all by myself. But we need to, as a whole body, between school board, legislators, executive branch, the city council, put ourselves in the position to put our kids where they need to be, to put them first.
And I say it won't happen. Thank
All
you.
right, last question.
Bernadette.
Unmute yourself, Miss Bernadette.
Yes. I'm a grandmother, and my grandson is in first grade, very, very intellectually intelligent. And he's at a D school without books. They might send home 3 sheets of homework at night, and a couple of them pertain to math, and one may be reading. Then you might hit and miss on English, no social studies, no science is going on. And they always participate in some type of flood during the year. Every 2 weeks they're doing something, but the children are not getting the adequate education. I retired as a teacher assistant, and I know a lot about education, and I have a daughter that's an RN, and it was due to good schools that she attended. And I'm just so concerned about him, because I know he's not getting what he needs to go and thrive. He made straight A's, but he's at a D school. So that's not a good evaluation of an A national. There's not a national A. And if y'all would go into these schools and y'all could see and talk to the children and see that most of the children can't read and write. And he can read because I taught him to read, and I taught him all kinds of other things, and his friends can't even read. And it's just so sad. And they code and calculate to you when you ask questions and you want to know what's going on and why y'all don't have books. And he doesn't have a history book, an English book, a math book. He have workbooks that he only work in class. And we're not allowed.
Thank you, Ms. Bernadette. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Let me just say this.
I would like to know what school. I'd like to know what school Miss Bernadette is talking about, Reverend Manning.
Yes.
He's at a school called Einstein in New Orleans East, and it's really it's horrible to see that he's not getting that adequate education. And I don't want my grandson to be, picked on because I am trying to make a difference, but yeah, that's a school that you need to go and look into and find out why they don't have books, why they don't have the adequate things.
Absolutely.
Really
and Representative Freeman, now that you know the name of the school, how can you move forward?
I mean, I can ask questions about it. I think that's in either Rep Newell's or Rep Hughes's district, and I'll talk to them about it. I mean, that's, I wasn't aware that they don't have books, and I think that's pretty horrible.
Yeah, they have like little workbooks, but they don't bring books home. Like in the past, my kids brought an English book home, math book, social studies. They have little workbooks that you don't even can't even see what they're doing out the workbook.
But
And the test, we don't even know how they test or anything.
Ms. Bernadette, I don't mean to cut you off. We just have to wrap it up. And I thank you for telling your story.
Pastor.
Thank
I
you so much.
understand.
Yeah, I
and-
appreciate you sharing that.
And I just want to say the book situation is just as horrible as the bathroom situation, as the no nursing situation, all of those situations that just require somebody truly to step in and go and see what's going on, because what is happening is just going under under a darkness that is not truly being observed or monitored or supervised. So,
Well, Reverend Manning, while you're
yes.
saying darkness, my grandson's school, Homer Plessy, has been in the dark today. The lights have been cut out 3 times. So I want to let Representative Freeman know about that as well. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Freeman. And
All
everybody.
right.
And one more thing, Pastor Manning.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, since we're running out of time, we really didn't have time to say, where do we go from here? Ms. Bernadette, my name is Sylvia. I'm gonna put my information in the chat. I'm willing to go with you to these schools because I live in the East. So we have to start somewhere, and I'm sick of it. So I'm gonna put my information to go with you. It don't matter. We need to form some type of team that's gonna start holding these people accountable.
And that
Yes, ma'am.
is, Sylvia, as we end that, that is one action that we got to figure out how we can take. Can we do our own audit? I don't even like that word because it has to do with financial culpability and responsibility. There's a better word that I'm not sure what it is yet, but can we form our own teams of folk that go in and do a review of these schools, much like the court watch people? How do we begin to form a school watch system
Yes.
that
Yes.
goes in? So we're going to pick up this conversation again. This is absolutely appalling because it is our children, Black children, who are mainly victimized, and it's done intentionally. I will say that time and time again. It's done intentionally because these private prisons need to fill up these cells with Black bodies, and we've got to figure out a way to coordinate and mobilize together to stop this. So thank you for those on tonight. Representative Freeman, you want to give us some closing words?
Well, I appreciate how much you all care and individually, and I'm very sorry to hear about some of the, unfortunate and they don't make sense options for the kids, because one of the reasons I'm in this legislature is for the kids. And so if I had time to go tour all the schools, I would, but any communication you can give me directly to my office so that I can sort of track what's happening, especially if it's your grandchild or your child.
I would love to.
And I would encourage you to also reach out to your own, your representative who is in that district as well.
I spoke to 3 of them. I came to the state building and I spoke with 3 of them.
Because I don't know that everybody always knows the details. And, if you're in the school, even if we can't be there to tour it, communicating it to us and letting us know so that when I am sitting in education and someone comes before and asks questions, I can speak to it. And that's how I learned from your advocacy and from you continuing to communicate with me.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Representative
Thank you
Freeman.
so much for caring.
We know you're extremely busy, and we so much appreciate you taking time away from the floor to come and join us tonight. And God bless you, and as you continue to do.
Well, it's empty now, so it's quiet now.
we can tell that.
Yeah, so I bet you can tell the difference. So okay. Well,
Very
thank you all.
much.
Have a good
see you.
evening.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
All right. Bye.
Ashana, would you give us some closing remarks? Ashana, you still there? She's here.
One quick question. Did somebody note, I didn't have time to get it, Representative Freeman's email address and her staffer name?
No.
Oh, nobody got it?
I can pull it up and have it in there. It's public information.
Okay, I can.
Well, Jess. Yes.
let me put the page in.
Okay, very good. Just pull it up.
We
and put it
should
there.
all know how to contact our legislators.
Yep.
That's the first thing everybody on this page should know. Let me put it
Right.
in.
All right.
Anna said she had to leave in the chat. Fred.
All right. Then let's begin. Thank you to our guest moderator, Ms. Cece Campbell-Rock. Always a wonderful pleasure to be on this forum with you, and thank you for assisting on tonight.
Let me say this, that anyone who has, wants me to, as a media person, to write about the issues that they're confronting in the schools, please get in contact with Sylvia Pastor Manning. They have my number.
I would love your number.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cece. Let's, everybody, we're going to close now. We're way over the time that we'd like to
Can
end,
I
which is 6:30.
Can I add
Yes.
something quickly? And then I stuck in the chat a couple of actions that we could do, including support Senator Boyd's bill and write comments for the legislature to read out loud when it goes before, and start our own watch, our school.
Amen. Amen.
Yep.
One more thing, Pastor Manning. April 21st, some of us are going to Baton Rouge, and that's a good time. Some more people, we could gather some more people with Power Coalition that can speak to the legislators when we go down there on the
All right.
21st.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sylvia. Let me take any informative announcements that anybody has. I'll take the liberty first. My church, Broadmoor Community Church, where no perfect people are allowed, is having an Easter egg hunt for the entire community on this Saturday from 3 to 5. We'll have a bounce house. We'll have food. We'll have a bunch of Easter baskets that we'll supply with candy for the children. So come on out and join us 3 to 5, Broadmoor Community Church, 2021 South Dupree. And also April 24th.
2021 South Dupree.
Yes, 2021 South Dupree. On April 24th, the Greater New Orleans Interfaith Climate Coalition is having our Earth Day celebration that's geared towards youth at Joe Brown Park. That is going to be, Ann, from what time starting?
From 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., but we have the park reserved for us near Picnic Shelter 2 for the whole day. So come on by, and Miss Sylvia McKenzie, you and I need to talk more about that to make
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
we're on board. Give me a call.
Amen. Amen.
It's going to be a
Stop by
great,
Joe Brown Park, 1 to 3 p.m.
great event with food, with, do we say snowballs too?
No, but we said music.
With food and music and lots of fun for the kids. 1 to 3, Joe Brown Park, April 24th. Any other announcements?
Yes, this is Melissa with Step Up Louisiana. We are having a new member recruitment fish fry for $6 right at the Step Up office, 2022 St. Bernard Avenue. And we also, that same day, we're gonna have a bacon bingo, okay? Instead of winning cash prizes, you have the opportunity to win a cake or baked goods, fresh baked goods, not a store-bought cake. So come out and help support us. We'll be here.
Did somebody
That's
say
the
cake?
Good
I'll be
Friday.
there. What day is that?
That's April 14th,
Good
Thursday,
Friday.
before Good Friday.
Thursday. Oh, Holy
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday coming up.
Holy Thursday. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. April 13th.
14th.
Yes. Thank you. 14th, you said. Yes. Any other announcements?
Yes, LUI will be sponsoring the town hall with DA Warren Montgomery on the 19th. It'll be a virtual town hall. Next week, I'll have the information in the chat.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any other announcements? All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and we're going to end with a word of prayer. I just want to give you the benediction that we have in our church body. May the Lord God bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face smile and shine on each and every one of you. May the Lord God Almighty favor you and bless you in your life. May the Lord God Almighty give you peace in this journey for this brief time that you have upon this earth. May you understand always that you are too blessed to be stressed, and may every need you have find supply or the engagement of anyone else in this world on this journey that can support you. And we're certainly here to help you do that at Just a Meow. So God bless you all. Y'all have a good night. and be safe, and we'll see you next week.
God bless everybody. Love y'all.
Oh,
Night, everybody. Love you more.
Good night.
Okay,
Love you,
Sylvia,
Miss
can I talk
Shawn.
to you for a minute? Sylvia, could we just take a minute to talk
If
right
we could
now?
stay
Is that
on,
what you're
yeah.
talking about? I don't know who's gonna, well, if we get cut off, you
Miss
can call me.
Brooke,
all right?
you gonna hang on or you need to go? I can't hear you.
Sorry. I think since you are a co-host, you can stay on.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna end because I've got to go.
But if it do cut off, Miss Ann, I'll call you on your phone. If it cut off.
Okay, perfect.
But
I
we're
just
gonna
thought as
stay
long as
on.
we're here.
We're gonna stay on.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. So Sylvia, for the 24th, you're gonna bring kids from your church, you're gonna bring some
I'ma
of them you've been
see if
mentoring.
some can come from my church, because you know my church is non-denominational, but it's majority African, and it's not a lot of children. I've already told them about the different things, but one of our members is going to Washington next month, but I was going to try to get him out with some of the people from Delgado and some of the other young people. I can ask them if they have children that they can bring, but I must talk to the neighborhood groups and let them know here in the East. My president is with Enoch, so I can let her share that on tomorrow night with Miss Dawn. Miss Dawn Abear.
Okay. Now, yeah, and Dawn Aber and I know each other well. Now, as we mentioned, we've got food and music and other stuff. One of the things with the food is that we have gotten a subsidy for vouchers for the food truck.
Okay.
We kind of need to know how many people are coming, participating, or volunteering so that we make sure we have the right amount of food.
Amen.
That's
I
why
got
we've
you.
been doing it organization by organization. And if you got 20 folks coming, good, you got 20 folks coming. But we hadn't made like wide open, everybody stop on by to the general public. To small groups like this, yes.
Yeah, I got you.
But we haven't been putting it out like on the newspaper or publicly posted, because for one thing, we are having participation by a number of faiths that are facing hate crimes right now.
Wow.
And so we are not putting out in a public space that Islamic and Jewish groups will be celebrating in Joe Brown Park.
Oh my God.
Dr. Saeed teaches at Delgado and Xavier, and so he is bringing some of his environmental science students to work with the groups.
Yes.
But we haven't done like a whole Xavier-wide or Delgado-wide invitation. And it's been a real prayerful challenge.
Okay.
And we've been working with the groups. The Islamic School of Greater New Orleans is planning on attending. And we have Pastor Manning and another pastor working with the imam to consider what kind of closing is appropriate. The youth directors are doing the opening with their kids.
Yes,
But
yes.
that last word, just like Pastor Manning gave us the last word, you know, and it kind of sets the way you go out.
Yeah.
The pastors, the leaders, and the imam are going to organize that so that we know for sure.
Okay. I go to church tomorrow evening, and as I was stating, Brother Melvin is the one that goes to Delgado. I can ask if maybe he could bring 10 students, because we want him to get more involved with climate. He's going to work, he's going to do his little crediting class with Senator Cassidy in Washington.
Well, good.
And that's why I want him to come now. I was hoping he could have been on tonight, because we were talking about them getting more involved. So yes, I will ask him if he could. And then I also have another brother Brandon. He's a school teacher, and now he's about to get ready to take his boards. So he really is into his kids and teaching them right too. So I'm gonna ask Brother Brandon as well. So when you need this count by, before the end of this week is out?
Okay.
Thursday or Friday?
What I'm gonna do right now, Sylvia, is I'm gonna send you the information of the next planning meeting.
Please.
The page flyer that we have, but it needs to have your contact information on it, because we don't have like a single contact person. I'll send that out. I just
Yes,
did it a
ma'am.
little bit earlier, and I'll send it
Okay.
right out to you. And
That's
that is
fine.
what you could share with the other two groups.
Okay.
So that each group could put their contact number on, and they'd know how many are coming.
Yes.
The security thing is interesting. I've done this in a number of different ways and places, and security for interfaith is just really challenging.
Wow.
And also,
That's scary. That's scary.
and also our Muslims are kind of light on the food truck because it's Ramadan and they're fasting.
Oh, yes.
So we're trying to figure out how to be not insensitive about everybody else gets food and food vouchers.
And they
But
can.
we just talked it through until it's fine. It's fine.
But that's good, because my pastor, she's the same way. She fasts so much. And guess what? It don't bother her if she have food for us. It don't bother her. I'm like, Lord, you good. You are good.
Yeah. But that's why we're having this on a Sunday afternoon. Our observant Jewish brothers and sisters will not come on Saturday, but Christian churches will carpool from church service.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes. Because I think Saturdays are they Sabbath, isn't it?
That is their Sabbath, and Friday is also a Sabbath for some of our
Yes,
participants.
yes.
But the Christians are very happy to go direct from church. Especially, that was part of the reason we're having the food.
Okay, that's
and you're gonna love it. It's Houdat, the food truck
Oh,
Houdat.
yes, yes. They have some
And
good
everybody
food.
loves him, and he's local and real strong on employing people locally and giving people a chance.
Okay.
Great owner of the shops and the
That's
trucks.
wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. But in the future, what we could do, we could put more out to a lot of the people with food trucks to come out and help us as we get bigger. I'm just looking at it broader, because it's going to explode. It's going to
Well,
explode.
yes, it is. And that's why we're being very thoughtful with this first one that
Yes,
really
ma'am.
just being at Joe Brown Park on a Sunday is kind of open anyway.
Yeah, it is.
But we've discussed quietly with NOPD, they are not going to be present. They offered to do their tabling, you know, for, and I asked them not to
Information-wise.
because, right, and I asked them not to, and I explained about how sometimes our participants are intimidated by the police presence. And so they are not coming, they are not announcing it openly, but they are letting the district, which is right there on the corner of Joe
7th
Brown
district,
Park.
yeah, that's our district.
They're letting the 7th district know that it's happening. So in case plainclothes families, if families of NOPD officers choose to come, they're welcome. But we
Okay.
are not having the blue presence.
Yeah, yeah, not to intimidate anyone, yes. Not to make
Yeah.
anyone uneasy, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like, oh, Ann doesn't mind telling me NOPD they can't come. It's okay, Sylvia. I got it in advance because I hold all the rest of the stuff and I'm in trouble because I am cooperating. It's fine.
It's gonna be all right. They understand, because guess what? They don't have time to come to nothing anyway. They need to be on the street. So God forgive me.
But you
They
know
do.
what? they need to come with their families, because
Yeah.
if our NOPD are treated like machines that you can just run them until they don't know what they're doing, they're not gonna be okay.
That's true. It'd be
This-
rebellious spirits. Yes.
Well,
that's true.
and they will be, we are making them into slaves. And it's
Oh,
not
yes.
okay to treat people like that.
That's true. Because
We're
that's just how
asking-
they feel. They don't get paid enough right now. I mean, we know how these people feel. And so I don't kid myself. You know, I mean, they underpaid and they got to take all this scrutinism everywhere they turn. So, I mean, there's so many different logistics to things in the atmosphere. We just got to change, you know, but it comes with time, but we begin with ourselves first. You know,
And we begin with each step being positive
That's
and
right.
people getting to know their local officer as a
That's
human
right.
being with his family.
That's right.
It's just
'Cause
like the
some
local.
of mine are my family, and I pray hard. Even I haven't been to St. Jude for a while, but I got to make it back there. I like my Candles Farm. I mean, it's a challenge for all of us, you know, but we still here, able to make a difference, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, except this past week I got my backyard lit on fire.
What? Someone?
People really object to positive change.
Oh, well, yeah, you know that. You know that. But you know
That's
what?
when the fire
It's
department came
everywhere.
and it's everywhere. When the fire department came and put it out, they checked it out. And when we had it checked out a little further,
Mhm.
the officer who last year told me that I needed to get rid of all of my sugar cane and tall grass because they needed line of sight under my house because I've been having vandalism on my my meters and my gas meter and stuff like that. All NOPD said is, well, cut the rest of it down. We still need line of sight under your house.
Wow.
I report people who are selling drugs
Yes.
because I'm watching my neighbors die of it.
Yeah.
And I know darn well who it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not shy about it. So
You sound like us out here where I'm at, area I was born and raised, and I'm not going nowhere. But I know a lot of them. I left from back here for a lot of years, from 16, but I came back in 92. I left in 81, and I came back like 10, 12 years almost later. So some of the people I was learning over, but they have to know we're not afraid. They feed off of your fear. You understand? But as a
Oh, yeah.
community, if we could reach people we know is scared, fearful, we have to keep reaching them. Use your phone. We have to help them to get lights. We have to help them to get cameras. That's what we've been doing. Sometimes I can't sleep at night. I get up 2:00 in the morning, I go outside. But you know what Sylvia did too, Miss Hand? I don't know if you remember. I became a security officer. I was a security officer at UNO by the lakefront, by the Federal Bureau and everything over there. But guess what? They know this because I put it on social media, biggest stuff with my badge and everything. I'm not playing with you. I mean, it's just so sad. I mean, even the pastors don't want to come out from behind the pulpits. What kind of stuff is this?
well, that's why we have to walk without fear. We know
Exactly.
that God is our shield and protector.
Yes.
And he's not asking us to be stupid, but I really liked my tall grass and sugar cane, so I let it grow back up. And I got the reminder, no, girl, it's for your own good. We asked
Yeah.
for line of sight. I used to teach literacy in federal prisons, and the
Yeah.
ones that were line of sight always made me crazy because line of sight meant you could shoot anything that happened.
Yeah.
And I,
Yeah.
jokey, I sure want to be there.
Sure. You don't know what to do anymore. You really
So I am sending you this email right now, and
Okay.
let me just make sure I got
You
your.
sending it to my email.
why I want to know what email you want it sent to.
That's the Sylvia McKenzie 79@gmail.com.
That's the one it's going to go to. It's the one that I sent to the principal of the school and the pastors and such. So I'm going to adjust it a little bit to send
Okay.
it to you.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
you'll get it in just a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
got.
Because I have
some
your
stuff.
number. If I don't see it, I'm gonna call you. Because I wanted
Okay,
to, I was gonna call you anyway to see what else. I was gonna bring an extra table.
Yeah, you
And,
need to bring what you're putting your presentation on, or whatever it is that you want to share.
Okay.
You know, the picnic shelter has a bunch of pretty big picnic tables, but we're not doing the demonstrations or displays on those because people might want to sit there.
Yeah.
One of the ladies who's teaching kids about a climate change app is bringing a blanket so they can all sit, because they're going to be sharing their cell phones for information.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than having a table between them, she's just decided, well, she's going to do a blanket, because then everybody will be the same. But you figure out what's right, Miss Sylvia.
Yeah,
don't
because I
need
was
to
trying to see
micromanage this.
what literature, other literature and flyers that I could get. I know Mr. Peters said he would supply some flyers that we could have to kind of get people to bridge the gap, in other words.
That sounds great.
So that's what I need.
Try and help figure out how to make sure it's stuff that will not just have to be picked up and put in the trash can.
Yeah.
Because that's just a killer on the environment, and for the people, it's really a tough one. But that's you know, you're going to figure it out. You'll have the right stuff. They can take pictures of their phone on their phone of anything you have.
Okay.
You can get sign up sheets for
Yeah.
them to sign on and
Yeah.
contact them back. You can put a QR code where they can take a picture of it with their phone.
That's what I was
if you
trying
wanna-
to see. The it's a video or something that people could watch, because you know, some people have movie nights at home or at church. So if they know more about what's going on in the climate, I just need to get some links that I can have to present to them.
Well, Deacon Joey is going to be holding the table for Greater New Orleans Interfaith Climate Coalition, and that has a bunch of links on it with some of those movies and some of those other things, because that's what I've been using for the last couple of weekends. And so you can do that, and we'll just figure it out. Oh, and if you don't know Sage Michael Pellet, do you know Michael?
I have his contact.
Okay, because he knows how to do all sorts of video stuff.
Good, because
Knows
that's what
where
we were
they
going to
are.
team up for my area, him and I, because he came, he's come, we always have cleanups. So we haven't done our area in a little minute, and we're trying to get that done with those tires again. That's just taking over. So we're trying to get LDEQ to do an audit down here, so they could target these places we go to get our tires changed, and we pay them the extra $2 to dispose of our stuff. So we trying to put that together to start something to target them, because it's ridiculous. It really is.
How well do you know Candace Newell, our representative?
I know of her, and she was on our was a panelist at Justice and Beyond before, but I haven't spoken with her ever since that.
She's on a couple of committees that have to do with industry and development.
And that's
because
Ms. Candace?
LDEQ does not have any teeth, and they can't even keep up with measuring water or air, which is actually their.
I've been trying to get that done out here too.
Well, good luck. And I've been trying to get it done here too. But the
What
thing
can we
is,
do though, Miss Ann? I'm serious. We have a lime company that the grass has grown so tall that you can't see it, but Austin Bannon, he know it's there, but he didn't switch so many different positions. You know, it's just a big old racket.
I was not the one who elected Abaddon. Because sometimes you just have to listen. Is he a good one? No, he's a bad one. And I will say that out loud. I've said it out loud to his face, because all he does is take money for being a politician.
Yeah, that's what was brought out.
Probably, I kind of hope he didn't remember I'm the person who said that, but I believe it.
No, you have to speak how you feel. Why hold it back?
Well,
They're
he's
not
taking
holding
the
it
money. He's taking the money, and it's not going to our kids. It's not going to get stuff fixed, which is actually why I also have spoken up against giving the city of New Orleans money for early childhood education.
Okay, okay.
Instead of giving that money to child care providers, say Kingsley House, say anybody, TCA, who has consistently provided quality early childhood education with local teachers that meets our needs. They're giving it to Mayor Cantrell's special little family or youth and family division. You know who I'm talking about? The one
Yeah,
that
that's not for.
she brought down the detention center, and it had to be returned to Homeland, to public safety. She tried to bring down the libraries last time and get that money for herself. I went to city council to do our ethics code with Manning.
I seen your television. I wanted to call you.
I didn't even talk on that one. I got up and got pissed at people giving Emily Wolf, and I said her name damn out loud in that public hearing. Yeah, we can't give her more money. That would be me.
You have to.
Well, yeah.
Doing too much. They're doing too much.
Nobody believes in early childhood education more than I do. Nobody knows the impact more than I actually have a undergraduate degree in early childhood education from the University of Wisconsin several lifetimes ago.
No.
But what I've seen here is that those kids, the ones that we're talking about today, I know those kids never had a shot. We used to have a juvenile detention alternative initiative where all of the community sat, and you talked to people who were running the schools, you talked to the different ones. Well, when the money slowed down, the courts got rid of it and gave it to criminal justice commissioner, and that's not where it's supposed to be. Tanisha's good, but she's supposed to be doing Tanisha's job. And so it just disappeared. It just disappeared. That's where I got to know Ernest Johnson and many of the other people.
Yeah.
Because people came because they had a chance to talk to each other in a respectful way. And then it went down the tubes.
But we have to try to bring that back, because things is just going down, down, down.
Nobody
hit rock
is
bottom.
bringing that up as an option.
Well, I know Sylvia gonna be in Baton Rouge. The Lord say the same. Life last that pass on the 21st. And I
Okay,
go
well-
in there. I don't stand on the outside. I go in there and ask for who I want.
Well, please keep an ear open for this early childhood education.
Okay. I'm gonna
It's
try
a-
to talk
it's-
to Jason, Amy Freeman,
Talk
Duplessis.
to Don Aber about that one, because
Okay.
that's a local one.
Okay. Okay.
Because the local one is the one that's trying to shuffle money into the mayor's pocket.
Gotcha.
What
right.
they're doing at the state level is incredibly important also, and they need to know. But it needs to go to the right people. It cannot just go into an empty pocket because
That's
they can
right.
hide
That's
it.
right.
Why
That's
wouldn't
right.
you give that to 3 entities that have nothing to do
With
with
this.
preschool education?
Yep. Oh, that
Would you-
mercy.
And after today, would you want to give that to the Orleans School Board? That's one of the
Nope.
partners. The other one is Agenda for Children, which is a nice policy making white folk group that says they do good things. They have really good catering. If you ever get invited to one of the symposiums, they have the most fantastic catering I've ever seen for a nonprofit organization.
Wow.
And the third one is Emily Wolf with Mayor Cantrell's Youth and Families. Of all three places not to put my tax dollars.
Oh my God. It's sad. I'm so disappointed in her because I served on the board with Cantrell when we was with Neighborhood Partnership Network. And I mean, it's like a whole different flavor that I'm feeling from her. So I just keep all of us lifted up in prayer because there's no more blind eyes. This is all of ours. How can we say our monster that we have to destroy once and for all?
Well, and so Emily Wolf was one of the people who helped get her elected. And she's such a yes person, no matter what Cantrell wants to hear. She makes something up that sounds good.
Yes, indeed.
But
Oh,
anyway.
my Lord. But baby, I love you. I'm about to go get ready to get in my exercising class with my pastor.
Excellent. Have a great time. Bye-bye.
You too. And look, we're going to talk because I need to finish getting this together. Thank you, Miss Ann. Love you.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Good night, everybody. And we need y'all support.